One of the things that you will notice as you get older, and I certainly notice this as I get older, is just realizing that you're just different than everybody else, right? And I'm not saying like you're better or worse or anything like that, but you realize that as you grow older, particularly if you self-reflect, not everybody does this, right? Like not everybody thinks about the past, not everybody thinks about who they are. Is pretty unique. But at the same time, when you do this, you realize like, oh my gosh, you're so different compared to everybody else. Uh, and one of the things, and I think like some people will realize this, is that they're fueled by very different things in their lives. And a lot of people, and thank God I had parents that I had, and they just stressed all of the time. This is what I think all the time. Like they just stress all the time. Don't keep up with the Joneses. They purposely said no a lot. And I think like they said no far too much. But like I can't change that. Um, but it became part of my life to know that, yeah, you know what? Like some things are just not that important, right? A lot of the material possessions and things like that are not that important. But the other thing that they taught me, um, what they almost always said yes to, not always, uh, but they often said yes to like family things or things that um, where we always had dinner together. So every once in a while, my parents would be fighting as people do, as couples do, and then my dad, we kind of have this like inside joke that we would get Kentucky Fried Chicken because my dad would have to go make something, so he'd bring Kentucky Fried Chicken home. Um, but that was I mean that was maybe a couple times a year max. Most of the time it was. Um, most of the time it was like as stability of making sure that family is really important, that um, that caring for other people was really important. I think to often a detriment. Um, my parents cared often too much about things and really protected us, and it was a really insular family. Um, In the sense, like, not in a bad way, but it was in the sense that, like, they were far too overprotective, but I did get some of that. I understand why, right? Like, they were trying to make sure that we were driven by the right things and understood that there's a lot more to life than all of the sort of fancy things. It was really easy. So my family, my extended family, they have sort of different priorities. I always knew that we are a weird family in our, extended family in a lot of different ways. I'm not going to get into that, but we were just a really weird family, um, compared to everybody else. And that allowed me, it's such an important lesson. It's such an important thing is to know that, hey, you can stand up and be yourself, but that being driven by something else. And I'm tortured inside. I tell you this a lot. I'm very much tortured inside from, wanting the external validation that we all want and we all possess, and, that sort of desire for people to love you. Um, I don't know why that is, but I think that's just very human. But on the other side, I mean, I think it's even more than human, right? It's like what it means to be a mammal. We're kind of a social species that we all want to herd together and all that kind of stuff. Right? We're kind of lemmings in a lot of ways. But at the same time, my parents taught me that it's such a blessing to be not rewarded by external fancy shiny things that almost everybody is. And that this was such a shock. It was like shocking to me. It extremely shocking to me because it was in such a little inside. I was born and raised in a little tiny town. Um, it was deeply shocking to me when I got in the real world and realized that not everybody has that view. A lot of people are not driven by, things like love and peace and, those kind of things. And it's made me as I've gotten older, coming to this realization is it's made me really crusty, and which means not in a bad way that I create boundaries to protect that as much as I can. And I shy away. I distance myself from people that do not have those same priorities. Um, I really shun those things, like really shun them. And I really run away from when I feel that somebody inside is not, there's something not right. It makes me, I don't like it. I have a deep sense of that, of what it means to just run away from people that don't feel good to me. And I think like having this protective layer, this sort of crustiness, um, is really important. And particularly in this day and age where, a lot of things are sensationalized. But what you realize is that once you remove um, some of this, and once you get down to why people do the things that they actually do, the sort of weird internal struggles that we have, you realize a lot of people are very similar in a lot of ways. But sometimes you can't fix those things, right? We all have these sort of strong desires and to impress and those kind of things. But if you're born and raised in a family that doesn't have that, like, don't care about the outside world, really protect um being, like, honor being good, right? Like, that was charitable work was, and I feel like deeply, I don't feel like I ever give enough in my life because charitable work was such a big thing in my family. And so that's where, I think like this reciprocity project is somehow solving some of that for me. It's such a really important part of my life to give back just arbitrarily. Um, but if it's something that you need to do, other things that you need to do, and this is like the tension with being a research academic is that you have to often be very selfish, extraordinarily selfish, right? Where you are worried about nothing but work, prioritizing work, doing charitable work is a waste of time. It really is. I know that you don't understand it. Um, but anybody that does charitable work, that goes out and donates their time and effort in the research world is considered they're wasting their time. Right? If you go to the food bank and spend time on the weekend at the food bank helping out, you're wasting your time, you're wasting your priorities. And it's deeply ingrained in it. Like, why are you doing this kind of stuff? But that's where it's so important for me to find things like this that solve that in some sort of way that may be overlapping. Maybe you have other things in your life that you could do that with, right? Like solve those things, those deep, um, that I'm programmed. Like my parents programmed me. I guess I was like, programmed or manipulated or whatever, right? Like I'm programmed to want to give or to be part of something that's bigger. And I think all my siblings are like that. I think we're all kind of weird that we want to give to a fault. Um, like very much to a fault. And we all have experience in our own little ways, um, being taken advantage of and all of those kind of things in very similar ways. And so it's been a hard lesson for all of us. because we were raised in such a insular, stable family that everything was good. Um, that it's a hard reality for all of us. But my thing is I want to come back to just letting you know that protect that. I think protecting that inner goodness and if people say that you're wasting your time when you're doing charitable work or anything like that, or giving in different ways that are not optimal, not efficient, and all of those kind of stuff, run away. Do your thing. Make sure that is part of your life. Like, protect that goodness. Protect it. It's good for you. It's very, very, it makes you who you are, right? Like, you're never going to be the person that you want to be from just work alone. So you need to find the things that allow you to be a better human being. And whether it's charitable work, whether it's spending time with your family, whether it is, even doing your own thing where you go but I find like my career is already isolating enough that's very stressful. Um, I want to be around people. I want to do those kind of things. It's important for me to do this and to make it more of my life, to give more of who I actually am. So, I've said it before. I'm deeply thankful for having parents, and a family that was reasonably stable. We had a lot of shit going on, but, um, from like a lot of shit. I think I've disclosed some of these things before. It's at the end of the podcast. I don't want to get into it, but, um, I'm deeply thankful for it. And it's allowed me to be a much better person, um, in a lot of ways, and to protect and honor things that I think are good and genuine and helpful that a lot of people don't value in this world. So thank you. Take care and have a wonderful day.